Today's program is brought to you by the Texas Deer Association. Kit is from Texas. He says, I'm 15 years old. I love your show and I can't get enough information on deer farming. One day I hope to have my own deer farm. My question is, how can I get a summertime job helping out on a deer farm? Kit, there's lots of people that want to make a career out of deer farming, and the best way to learn about deer farming is to get a job and become an intern. There are internships available. You're from Texas, so I'd suggest contact the Texas Deer Association. Tell them what your intentions are and they'll point you in the right direction. If you live outside of Texas, anybody, you're interested in deer farming as a career or as a summertime job like Kit is, contact the North American Deer Farmers Association. Tell them what your intentions are. They'll point you in the right direction.
I'm Chris Patton, owner of Extreme Whitetails of Louisiana. We're located in Shudrint, Louisiana. I've been deer farming for 10 years and we have approximately 100 to 110 deer on the premises now. One of the reasons deer farming is good in Louisiana, you start out on a small piece of property. You don't have to have thousands of acres to get involved in it. It's not a high cost to get into the deer industry right off the bat, and there's a lot of people in Louisiana looking for good genetics to put on their land. Whitetails of Louisiana Association is a good way to keep deer farmers together and to try to promote new deer farmers to get into the business. It's kind of a camaraderie of a lot of good people that want to improve their land and improve the genetics on their land, and they're willing to help anybody any way they can.
All right, these guys are all 2-year-olds?
Yes, they're
Really?
all 2-year-olds, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you got one in here real gray looking.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tell me about him.
He's a Tombstone son over a 2-wide PA Geronimo doe. That's why he's kind of got that gray look to him. He's got that Texas bloodline in him.
Yeah, boy, he's a pretty deer, but he does have Tombstone in him.
Oh, yes, sir. Yep, he's
Okay.
a direct Tombstone son.
All right, you got any other Tombstone?
Yeah, the
Out here?
one to the right there, that's a Tombstone over a Bucky daughter.
Ooh, okay.
He's got a nice frame on him as well, too.
Okay, so as we're talking about that bloodline-wise, percentage northern, how much is that then?
Well, probably, I'd say 3/4 northern.
3/4 northern. So, folks, that's important to point out because we're in northern Louisiana. It gets hot here. And for them to be able to survive that much northern blood. Now, tell them how long ago you brought that northern blood in here.
It's probably been 9 years ago now since I
Okay.
actually started.
And the border's closed here in Louisiana. And since then, really, I mean, it just shut down. I mean, some people brought deer from up north, some people brought deer in from Texas. And so really there's an influence of both northern genetics and Texas genetics in here. Now, but they're all 2-year-olds, sure enough?
Yes, sir. All those are 2-year-olds.
I just look at those things and I think, I don't know what the average score is, but it's big. And would you ever have thought years ago when you started that you'd be able to go 2-year-olds like that?
No, sir. I still don't believe it today. It's hard. I have to come out here and do a self-check every once in a while.
Folks, when you take a look at these Nadar pedigrees, you'll find out how come they're like that.
Yeah.
I mean, as a deer farmer, I've been deer farming a long time. We had no idea that the
Right.
deer would get big like what they are.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, they go back to anchor deer, these anchor genetics that they go back to. And, you know, we talk about Tombstone. And is Tombstone still alive?
Yes, he's 5 this year.
He's 5,
Yep.
and Tombstone is he's a northern deer. He's got
That's right.
northern blood in him.
Yep, but he was born here on the place, so
Yeah.
he's been here since he was a baby.
How big is he this year?
He's probably going to score around 300 this year, I imagine, at 5.
So he went a little bit backwards.
Yes, he did.
Which is normal. I mean,
Yeah.
because you use him for breeding. And
That's right. We bred him pretty hard, and of course, he's my most consistent producer. I mean, his 2-year-olds are, well, you see the 2-year-olds.
And so all that goes back, all of it,
Yep.
to old Tombstone.
That's
Wow.
right.
Okay, now I understand you've got an exceptional yearling buck too. Tell me
Yeah.
about him.
He's out of Triple Crown, High Rollers Triple Crown from Texas over there, but he's over a Tombstone daughter, so he.
So it's the same blood then.
That's right. Yep. He's
Okay.
I'm pretty pleased with that yearling this year.
Okay, if somebody wants more information on your deer farm, what do they need to do?
Just contact me on my cell phone, 318-265-2955. It's Chris Patton, or Chris at extremewhitetailsla.com.
And if you're watching this show and you live in Louisiana and you're interested in deer farming, or you're a deer enthusiast, you want to go to a deer farm, go to Whitetails of Louisiana website, and you can get on there and you can see where all the deer farms are located, and you can find one right down the road from you and call them up, make an appointment, go see their deer.
I'm Addison Patton of Extreme Whitetails of Louisiana, and you're watching Deer and Wildlife Stories with Keith Warren.
Now it's time for the Beam Fence Minute.
As a landowner, one of the things that a lot of guys have problems with is having a fence that's properly spliced together. I'm Mark Beam from Beam Fence Company. Let me show you how we splice wire together. Over the years, we've tried different ways of splicing wire together. We found out that the Nyco Press crimp works the best for us. It's a little bit it's stronger, and it's also longer, so you only have to crimp down once versus the smaller crimps where you have to add more and more together. With this type of crimping system, one crimp does it all. People want to have a fence that's going to last a long time. This is one of the tools that we use to make sure that that happens. If you'd like to find out more about constructing a fence, go to our website at beamfence.com.
I'm Daniel Thomas. I own Daniel Thomas Whitetails. I'm in Spring Hill, Louisiana. I'm located a half a mile from the Arkansas line and 20 miles from the Texas line. I've been deer farming since 2010, and I have about 70 deer on my farm. Yes, I breed for the wow factor at 2, so I want early maturing genetics, so I use at least 50% northern in order to do that. And I use quite a few of Robert Williams and High Roller Whitetails Texas bred deer, and some of theirs are 50% northern. Whitetails of Louisiana is a unified voice for the deer farmers and for the deer enthusiasts in Louisiana. There's a lot more support in Louisiana than most people realize. Whitetails of Louisiana directors and deer farmers as a whole will share as much information as you will need to raise whitetail deer. You're not in it by yourself, and we're here to help you. You're welcome to come to my farm at any time if you want to be a breeder, or if you're already a breeder, or if you just want to come look at big, pretty deer. We love showing big, pretty deer.
2-year-olds?
Yes, the larger Orange 9 there is a Dream Rolex out of one of my bottle-fed doe, and I love the kickers coming out both sides. And of course the other, the Orange 14 is also a Dream Rolex. If you notice, he's real long times.
So what about this deer over here? He's got the long brow tines. He's not 2, is he?
No, that's the only 3-year-old in here. That's Hollywood.
Oh, that's Hollywood. Okay. I mean,
So-
I like his look. I mean, he's beautiful. Now tell me about his bloodline.
He is a High Roller over a Max Bow doe out of Wavocal Scout, PA Geronimo on the very bottom.
Okay, so High Roller. Okay, what I'm looking at here. So you've got deer that are both northern genetics and southern genetics, kind of in here, right?
I do. He's basically 100% northern,
Right.
and then of course I do have a lot of half Texas. It's kind of my breed.
Okay, well, in looking at these guys, tell me the ones that are out of Dream Rolex. Now, you just have that one then in here?
No, all the 3 of those are out of Dream Rolex. The Orange 9, Orange 14, and Orange 15 are out of Dream Rolex.
Daniel, I'm impressed. But I hear that you've got a really exceptional 1-year-old too out of Dream Rolex. What's he look like?
He's wide with the kickers, and he's just a very classic looking at.
I want to ask you something. All these deer right here, you've got DNA on them, I'm assuming,
Sure.
and they're all in the NADAR
Sure.
registry?
Yes.
So if somebody buys a deer for breeding purposes from you, you can produce a certificate and show them.
I don't want to. I will not sell a deer without DNA.
Okay.
I don't want it. In case something comes back later, I want to protect that person.
And that's good advice, folks. I tell you what, if I wouldn't buy a deer unless you have a NADAR pedigree. Okay, if somebody wants more information on your farm, how would they get a hold of you?
My phone number is 318-469-9404, or go to my website, danielthomaswhitetails.com.
And he's about as far north in Louisiana as you can get without stepping into Arkansas.
That's correct.
As you've seen on today's show, there's lots of wonderful things that can happen on a deer farm, and it's all possible because of a shared love of the white-tailed deer. If you have any questions or comments about deer farming, or if you have a question or comment about the show, look me up on Facebook. I'm Keith Warren, and thanks for watching Deer and Wildlife Stories. What you're about to see is graphic in nature, so viewer discretion is advised. Last August, many of Texas's deer farmers were forced to kill hundreds of perfectly healthy deer in order to test them for chronic wasting disease. To date, approximately 600 deer have been killed, and the killing isn't over. What's worse is that out of all the deer that were killed, Not a single one of them tested positive for chronic wasting disease. I don't know about you, but to me there's just something wrong with the picture when you start killing perfectly healthy deer to test them to make sure they're not sick with chronic wasting disease. Now, CWD has been around for over 50 years, and I'm a believer that CWD, it needs to be managed from science-based management rather than from a political agenda. And I think that we ought to learn from states that have been battling CWD for more than 50 years, and they themselves say that there's nothing they can do to manage it. What they need to do is just monitor it. So again, I think that we ought to base our CWD stuff all on science and not on a political agenda. If you'd like to find out more about chronic wasting disease, let me encourage you to go to the website cwdmyths.com.